We might be at the point in sports where building a super team is no longer the right way for a club to build a team. Ever since that term was popularized, we've seen a lot of teams ditch that whole idea and win championships. And for me, that begged the question, is the super team meta over? Or is it just experiencing a period of inefficiency? Now, there's no universal definition for what a super team is, and across different sports, it will be different because of how many players are on each team. For example, on a basketball team, having 3 superstar players might be enough for you to be considered a super team because that's 60% of your starting lineup. But on a football team, that'd just be 27%. But regardless of the numerical differences across sports and how many superstars you actually need to be considered a super team, there's one polarizing element of the debate that is consistent throughout, and that is what it takes for a team to become a super team. For some, it's just if a team has an extraordinary amount of superstar players, but to many others, it's the inorganic assembly of superstar players on any given team. For me and many others, you'd save the term super team for those who go out and acquire superstars to be the faces of their franchise. Teams that organically generate multiple superstars don't feel like super teams in this way that we use the term. For example, before the Golden State Warriors signed Kevin Durant in 2016, they had 3 future Hall of Famers in Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson. Now, to some people, any team with a big 3 should be classed as a super team, but the way that they built their team made it feel like that wasn't the case. But just adding KD in one offseason changed everything. They were unequivocally a super team now. The same can be said of teams like the 2012 Miami Heat, the 2008 Boston Celtics, or the 2020 Brooklyn Nets. And this isn't just exclusive to basketball. The same could be said of the Galacticos Real Madrid teams in the 2000s that just stockpiled as many of the world's biggest stars as they could. Now, in theory, super teams are good because superstars win games. It's part of the reason why they're superstars. LeBron James is the kind of player who can flat out win you a game on his own. The same can be said of Cristiano Ronaldo, Shohei Ohtani, or Micah Parsons. So if you want to win, you probably want as many of those players on your team as you can. Think about it. Why rely on one superstar to be on it every single night if you can have 3 or 4 to share the load? Surely at that point, you're gonna win every night, right? The rationale is clear. Have as many game winners on your team as you can, and you'll probably win games. Now, the Golden State Warriors from 2017 to 19 are the perfect example of how this philosophy can work. In those 3 seasons, they won 2 championships in convincing fashion, and if not for 2 freak injuries to half of their superstars, they probably would have won another in 2019. But what we saw from this team is just how much of a luxury it was to have multiple superstars. If Steph Curry was having an off night, then KD would fill the box score up with 30 or 35. But if KD wasn't feeling it one night and his shots weren't dropping, then Steph and Klay could combine for 70 points on 8 made threes each. There was no pressure on the superstars to be superstars, but there definitely was room for them to be. It truly felt like those teams were unbeatable, and if not for freak injuries to Klay and KD in 2019, as well as there being some rumblings of discomfort amongst the group, they probably would have been unbeatable for a good amount of time. And just because I want to talk about them, I think they deserve their flowers, and especially if you're talking about super teams, they are maybe the best example. The LA Dodgers have assembled quite possibly the best or most talented baseball roster we've ever seen, which gets better every season, and they've won the last 2 World Series as a result. They reinforce the idea that a super team, or in their case, a super team, can be the best way for you to guarantee success. But it's not all sunshines and rainbows for a super team. For the most part, they need a very particular environment to be successful. The Warriors had a Hall of Fame coach in Steve Kerr, a universal team ethos that everybody bought into, and an irreplaceable supporting cast. In addition to this, the superstars rarely missed times on that team, and as a result, they learned exactly how to play together. When you don't have all of those added amenities in that environment, the whole thing can come crumbling down very, very quickly. Take this season's Liverpool squad, for example. They were in a very similar position to Golden State in 2016 when they first signed KD. They had just won the Premier League, and Golden State had won the NBA Championship just 1 year before. And as I said before, Golden State just adding KD was enough for them to become a super team, just because of how few players are on a basketball squad. Liverpool, however, would have had to do a lot more to become a super team in 1 summer. So they signed Alexander Isak, Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, Jeremy Frimpong, and Milos Kerkez. They had built their super team. But Liverpool this season have learned all of the lessons that many failed super teams have learned in the past. You can have all the superstars you want. If you don't have the amenities and the environment surrounding them, It doesn't matter. Just ask the PSG teams that fielded Lionel Messi, Neymar, and Kylian Mbappe how much superstars can just do on their own. Now, questions have been asked of Arne Slot's managerial work, the seeming decline of some of the supporting cast, and the fit of the superstars themselves. It's clear that this year's Liverpool team aren't the well-oiled machine that the gold standard Golden State Warriors were. But like I said at the beginning, in the years since the term Superteam was popularized, we've seen many normal teams lift trophies. PSG left behind their three-headed monster and won a treble in 2025, including the all-elusive Champions League. Liverpool had never been a super team type club and rode a unique but potent style of play to win 2 Premier Leagues in 5 years. And even the dominant OKC Thunder from this and last season were built from the ground up and won an NBA championship largely from players and the system that they had developed and curated themselves. But what this tells us is you don't need bona fide superstars to be successful. If your system can make your good or above average players look like superstars, then it doesn't matter, it's all the same to you. Jalen Williams, Ryan Gravenberch, and Desiree Doué are not the kinds of players that take a team from being very good to being a super team. But on their respective teams, their systems work in a way that makes them look like superstars anyway. So the alternative to going out and building a super team is to just create a super environment that makes your good or above average players play like superstars anyway. They may move on and return to an above average or even average level. Just look at Jordan Poole, for example. But to you, that doesn't mean anything because for you, they were superstars. But if you ask me if teams should continue building super teams, I'd probably say yes. That's because in theory, super teams do give you the best chance to win, especially in sports like basketball or even American football. But you have to make sure you're a Golden State type super team and not a Brooklyn Nets type super team. The consequences for building an unsuccessful super team are far greater than building an unsuccessful normal team. That's because superstars demand massive contracts, they garner a lot of attention, and they bring big expectations. If your super team isn't good, you're likely going to suffer for many years to follow. The Brooklyn Nets still haven't recovered from the disaster that was their little super team era with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, and they've been one of the worst teams in the NBA ever since. And Liverpool are on the verge of missing out on the Champions League for next season, which would have disastrous ripple effects on the future. And even on the baseball diamond, the New York Mets have been amongst the biggest spenders in MLB over the past 4 seasons, spending $1.38 billion on payroll and luxury tax. And they now find themselves in the baseball purgatory where they're just holding on to any semblance or hope of being successful, but really just not being very good at all, which means they're not set up well for the future because their environment doesn't cater to building success. But if the OKC Thunder were to not win a championship for the next 3 or 4 seasons, they probably wouldn't face any crippling long-term effects because the way that that organization is run, the contracts that their players have, and I guess the expectations that they don't have mean that it probably wouldn't be that bad for them to not be successful in the next few years. So I'd say yes, clubs should continue building super teams, but only if you know how to run them. Now that's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you tuning in. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much. I just had to re-record the whole thing because my mic wasn't on the first time I recorded it. So hit the like button for all of the dedication and hard work that I put into this. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know any ideas you have in the comments. If you think super teams are good, if you think they're bad, and I'll see you all on the next one. Peace.